Welcome to this video presentation about our logistics software for Windows environments. This software application is part of a much bigger logistics platform that has the capacity of connecting to other devices for data exchange. It's being developed according to open data concepts and also according to an horizontal philosophy way of collaboration between data centers. It's BIM enabled and it was planned from day one in a way to become more than anything else a facilitator of real-time data. A tool for solving quickly any issues, problems, or non-conformities that may happen during the workday. It has a simple yet efficient way of doing data validation between collaborating enterprises based on data redundancy, time authentication, and localization aware of data origins. Currently, this application is being migrated to modular logic where a user can install packages and widgets according to his needs. In this presentation, I will walk you through on what are the main functionalities already implemented if you're a business operating in the construction sector. If your company operates in a different sector and needs a logistics platform, talk to us and we can adjust the software to your specific company needs. After installing the Windows app, you need to have at hand the credentials that were given to you. If you're using the demonstration version from the website, keep in mind the version you're running is a production version and as so is not yet fully tested, may have limited functionalities, or you may run into a bug. If that happens, simply restart the application again to continue exploring. To log in, type the username and password given on the website. The full version also allows a user to log in with a company smart card using his smartwatch or his smartphone. After login, you will find a menu on the left side of the app. To open the menu, click on the button located on the top left corner. Now you can see the menu options available for you to browse. The first menu option is the Profile and Settings menu. On this menu, you can edit your user profile and adjust settings of the app. You can also log out or exit the app from this menu. The following menu is the Data menu. On this menu, you can print and export data to Excel, for instance. Next, you have the Workers menu. Here you can manage the individual worker file and legal documentation. You also have the option to locate a worker and the option to view and print all documents attached to a worker file. The following menu is the one where you can manage all the construction site activity. The first sub-menu option is for managing attendance at each construction site, followed by the option to manage planned absence for cases where a worker needs to take a personal day off. The Days Closed option is to manage planned days a construction site is not going to be open on regular work days. Next, we will find the option to manage all things related to clothes and protection equipment for an individual worker. I'm going to skip the sub-menu option Planning of Works as is currently being coded and is not yet implemented. The sub-menu below is to manage and assign teams to be deployed at a given construction site. Next, you have the sub-menu option to schedule a delivery of construction and building materials at any construction site. The following two sub-menu options are not yet implemented and are for managing consumable material stocks, tools and machinery available at the warehouse in the construction site. The next sub-menu options is the one where you can find all the activities for any construction site during the workday. The final two menu options are for checking the weather, and the last one is for managing connected devices to the system such as tablets or smartphones. Moving to the next menu option, you can find the General Contractors menu where you can manage all things related to construction contracts in a dossier file. The next version will also have enabled the sub-menu option to list all activity logged between the general contractor and your company. The next menu is the subcontractors, partners and partnerships and is not yet implemented on this version of the software. The last menu option before the Help menu is the Reports menu. On this menu, you have available all kinds of reports related to data logged in the system, not directly related to the works at the construction site. Now that you know the basic menu options, let's start by showing how the worker file looks like and what type of information you can store. As you can see, the workers file is a simple form where you can enter anything related to a worker. It's divided according to the type of data, from personal details to legal details, such as legal documentation, to carry when at a construction site. This is useful as many workers frequently forgot to carry valid documentation with them. When that happens, the technical staff at the construction site simply needs to log into the platform and download all necessary legal paperwork, avoiding what could otherwise be an extended period of delay or closure of the site by the authorities. To locate a worker, you need to select the Locate a Worker option on the menu. This option enables you to rapidly locate a worker and which construction sites he has been working on the current month. You simply need to select the worker on the left side list, and on the bottom click on View Details to view the current details of the selected worker. The Documents options allow you to view documentation inserted on the database and even print if needed. To do so, you need to select first the type of document you need to see, following selection of the worker's name. As this is a demonstration version, no document can be found. On the Site menu, you will find the following submenu options, as mentioned before, and to see how logging of attendances is going during the day and during the month, you need to select the first option. After it's loaded, you have available this form. On the top left corner is listed all the sites and site sections that you have inserted in the database. And to view one site or within the site and one site section, you need to select one and click the magnifying glass. Now that the attendance records are loaded, you can read the table following the legend here. And for instance, for this worker, you can see that is marked in gold, and it means that the worker has made at the construction site the checking in and or the checking out on that day. It also means that this record is not yet validated by the general foreman. For a record to be validated, it has to be on any other letter or color different than gold. as you can see on the legend here. You also can find some details of the worker you selected on the table here on the bottom. And you can also add some notes or annotations for that worker on that day in regards, for instance, of type of work, some type of remarks, and some useful notes for that can help later assist on elaborating the daily reports. To make the validation of an attendance record, you simply need to double tap on the day that you want to validate. The new form will appear as so. And to begin with, you have the information about the checking in time and the checking out time, the duration of the period of work. And to do validation, you have these options. You can say that is a full day's work, or instead a full day's absent. You can say that is a partial day's work with the well-defined number of hours. You can type in here, or it is a day marked for for illness or for holidays, or a non-working day due to bad weather, or simply there was a confusion by the worker for some reason that we cannot foresee, and you need to clear the checkout record. This is important because sometimes the workers pass their company cards 2 times on the system, and they do the checking in and the checking out at the same time at the beginning of the workday in the morning. For the system to run better, this option is here, so that when logging, for instance, unscheduled works, the worker appears as available to be assigned an unscheduled work. In here you also have options if the worker is doing work related to machinist or craneman work, and when that happens, this group box will be enabled, where you can mark if he's been operating the crane all day or just for some hours. Finally, the general farmer needs to justify the validation that he's doing to the work and present a valid reason when it goes differently on what are the records showing and that were made by the logging of the worker at the construction site. The absence options allows you to inform the system that a worker is going to be absent on a given day or for some days. You select a worker on the left side. Next, select add a new record, state a motive, the type of trip that he's going to do. He's going to do it by plane, he's going to do it by car, things like that. And next you select the start date and the end date that the worker is going to be absent from work. You also have the possibility to add some notes, some annotations on the whys and why not the worker is going to be absent. For instance, some annotations about picking up the worker at the airport, and anything related that can assist and improve the management of on this case of the worker in question. The next option is days closed on the construction site. This option is just to improve the quality of the planning of works and is here to mark any days that the construction site may be closed for whatever reason, and no work is going to happen on that day or on those days. You simply select the construction site, select and add a new record and the date interval, make some annotations if needed, and then save the record. And later, when doing planning, this day marked as a closed day will appear on the table, so the planner can see more clearly the needs for that construction site in particular. Next, we have clothes and protection equipment for a worker. This option works in parallel with the Android app available at each construction site. On this case, it is possible to do two ways of logging the needs of clothes and protection equipment for a worker. On the side of the worker, a worker during the day can make a request through the app that is going to need some type of clothes or some type of protection equipment, and on that case the request will appear on this box. And when that doesn't happen, for instance on the office, we can simply, when we, for instance, at the office, when we are handing over some clothes or protection equipment, we can log the equipment that was given to the worker at that time, and it will appear on the bottom box. To add an entry, you need to select the site. Next, check if it corresponds to the current month, or if you want to add an entry. Let's just, for instance, if you forgot to add an entry, you can select a different month. Next, you select the worker that you are handing over the clothes or the equipment, protection equipment. Some information about clothes size appears here next to the photo of the worker. On this case is not showing in full because the information is missing from the database. And to add a new record, you need to click in the bottom box on add a new record, select the type of clothes, or if it's other than clothes, for instance protection equipment, select the date of delivery, and maybe add some annotations if needed. The next option available is assign worker teams. This option enables the general foreman to assign teams to a construction site or to a section of a construction site. First, you need to select the site and the site section. On this demonstration version, we only have one site with one site section. Select the month, hit the magnifying glass, and a table is shown with the current assignments for the selected month and the selected the construction site and selected site section. On this case, it's assigned a foreman, a steelworks worker, a woodworks worker, and a mason. These letters means that is planned to go to this site on this day, and when a letter is missing is because it is not planned that the worker to go to this site on this date, or it has already worked at this site and on this day, so it doesn't show on the planning, it shows an empty box. So it means that he has indeed worked on this day at this construction site, for instance. To add a new worker, you can select from the list box with the workers here, select the worker and click on the worker with the green plus button, and the worker will be added to the assigned team. You can also edit the tasks and the type of works that a worker is going to do and to perform on each day at the selected construction site. To do that, you need to select the line and the column corresponding to the worker on the day you want to make those adjustments. Double click on it, and this form will appear. You can make this assignment, these selections, by selecting an individual day on the calendar or selecting multiple days until the end of the month. And in terms of planning, you can say the worker is going to be assigned to work at this construction site. You can say that he's going to change of construction site on this day that you have selected on the calendar. Or you are saying that, for instance, that you want to remove from this construction site on the days you selected here on the calendar. Let's say that I'm going to assign a worker to this construction site. I can also say what type of works that he is assigned to do. For instance, the selected worker can be assigned to do some steelworks, or instead can be assigned to do some woodworks, or do some tasks relating to masonry. Also, he can be assigned as a foreman, for instance, as a temporary replacement of the foreman for that construction site. Next, below, there are some responsibilities that can be assigned to the worker on this day or on the selected days, and the worker for the worker to be aware of, and namely handle the tablet that allows the access to the platform, to the system at the construction site. Make verification and distribution of works to be carried out on the day for each worker in terms of planning. Register on the tablet delivery notes of materials received on the construction site. Handle and manage storage of materials and consumables in the warehouse at the construction site. And counting, checking the operating status and storage of machine tools and equipment in the warehouse. Finally, the last options, it has to do with the transport and travel to and from the construction site. if he's going to be the designated driver, and if he's responsible for maintaining and cleaning the car or the bus assigned to do transportation to and from the construction site. The next menu option is the delivery of materials. These menu options allows to log in advance what are the expected dates and times for delivery of construction and building materials at the site, and allows when that data is logged, allows the teams to be prepared to unload the materials and prepare the site to receive the materials, so that the unloading can occur without any delays or any problems whatsoever. To make a schedule of materials to be delivered at a site, first you need to select a construction site. You need to say that you want to schedule a new reception of materials, add a date, a start hour, expected start hour, and expected end hour. Of course, this is not to be taken at in exact numbers, as some delays may occur when on arrival of the transport, and you need to have some flexibility when managing this data. You can also state what type of materials that you are going to receive, for instance, steel, concrete, block of concrete, woodworks, prefabricated elements, and when it's not listed here, you can type one yourself. Insert the quantity that is going to be delivered and what are the units that they are measured, and finally add some notes on how to proceed, for instance, on how some safety precautions to be taken into account when receiving these materials at the construction site, or any preparations that need to be done before receiving the materials or after receiving the materials. Anything useful that can expedite the unloading and storage of the materials in the correct manner at the construction site. Next, we have the activity menu option. In here, you can find all data related to the activity going on at any workday during the week. It is divided on these 5 tabs up here, and it starts with the daily journal. The daily journal information shows the attendance records, and the site activity entries logged into the system. To see, you need to select first a construction site, a section within the site. I'm going to select this day. I'm going to leave, just for demonstration purpose, I'm going to leave all the options enabled here, but you can select only some. And as you can see, of course, this is missing a lot of data. On a regular work day, this list appears to the bottom with entries and records, and also it appears the photograph of the workers and type of works that is doing on this day. At the end of the day, the general foreman with this information can write an activity summary of the day, and also if any occurrences happen during the day, he can also add the journal entry on the occurrences here and save it on the system for as a report, as a daily report for the construction site. The next tab is the production map. On this tab you have a resume of the work activities that is happening during the month for the selected construction site. I'm going to select here the full month, and I'm also going to ask the production values. You can select also the amounts related to production, and also see the information as accumulated values. I'm going to leave it as is and only select the production just for demonstration. As you can see, you have the activities that were contracted by the general contractor listed here. They all have an ID, an internal ID, and a reference ID from that was given from the general contractor, the task description, the price, the unity price, and the quantity. Next on this table you can have a view of what was done previously. For instance, we are viewing only data for the month of September. If there is data before, let's say for instance in August, those values would appear here on this column. This is the sum values. On this column it relates to the production for the selected period, on this case for the month of September. The accumulated values from previous to the sum of previous and period, and the accumulated quantities. After that, you have the log entries of production by day. Quantity done, quantity to do, and it repeats by log entry and by day over the month. At the bottom of this table you will find the services based on hourly rate. For instance, the craneman, the machinist, and also related to unscheduled and or unforeseen works that were not previously contracted. And those values appear on the date that the work, in this case it has a value for unscheduled works on this date, and that value appears here, and it repeats anytime it happens. At the end of the month you can see a full table with all the works that were done during the month, and also a description for the entries during every day of the month of the works. This is a summary table of all that was done, and it serves as a tool to make the invoice for the general contractor at the end of the month. This table, the values are retrieved from the following tabs here: production, delivery of materials, and unscheduled works. I'm going to click on production. The production values here are only for listing or on the log entries that are made by the workers at the construction site at the end of the day. On this case, I'm going to select the month of September. And as you can see, there are some production entries made for the workers. And you can view individual entries by double-clicking on the line entry, and the values will appear on the right side with the date, the quantity that was executed or done, and some notes or annotations about the work or conditions of the work that were found, or conditions of the tools, of the equipments, anything that can be helpful on explaining why the quantity of work done is the one that was logged. You can find also the workers that were or the team that done the works stated here for this task. These are the workers assigned, and here is the selected task where the works refer to. The general manager has the ability to edit these values as so he understands. However, the data, the initial data is never lost, so the edit is stored as an edit record, and so all the edits can be in case of an audit, for instance, or in case of a dispute of values, the edits can be retrieved from the database, so that the dispute can be clarified more easily and more promptly. The next tab is related to the delivery of materials at the construction site. This tab is more acts more like a documental system than anything else. As before, you need to select the construction site. You need to select the period where it refers. On this case, in this demonstration, there is one entry here, and is related to steel. You can also see that there is attached one photo document. You can select the photo document and see a photocopy of the document of the delivery note at the delivery time of the materials at the construction site. You can also edit this entry by double-clicking, where you can edit the document reference, the date, the quantity, the type of materials, maybe add some annotations or some notes on the conditions of loading and or unloading of the materials. This is useful because sometimes the workers don't have the necessary time to fill all these fields, and they just end up to take a picture and automatically log the photo into the system, and for later the record to be edited and filled with the correct information for the photo that was taken. And finally, you have here the unscheduled works. This option works in parallel as well with the application, the Android application on the tablet available at each construction site. And it serves the purpose of logging any unscheduled works that are not listed on the contract and need to be accounted for payment at the end of the month. In this case, the selection is the same as before. You need to select the site section, select the period. I'm going to select the month of September. And it shows here listed the unscheduled works that were logged by the foreman or the designated worker at the construction site that were not previously taken into account on the contract. You also have a legend here. Green means that the record is opened and closed according to what is stipulated as a good standard of handling this type of situations. To give you a simple explanation, this type of to open unscheduled works, a worker needs to be in agreement with someone from the technical staff at the construction site, and both need to authenticate on the tablet with each of their access smart cards to the platform. And by both authenticating into the system, they both agree that at that time the selected workers that are listed here are going to do the works requested that are noted here. You can also edit these records from the office by double clicking on the record. Let's say, for instance, that the annotations were not made. You can add an entry, or that the annotations are insufficient and more works were done. You can add more to the annotations that were already in record, or you can also edit the start time or the end time, for instance, and all this information is never deleted from beginning to end. All this information, every edit is added to the annotations, so that at the end of the month both sides know exactly what happened on this entry for the unscheduled works, and so to minimize possible disputes about, for instance, the start time and the end time of works and what was really done at that day and on those hours. At the end of the month, on the meeting to discuss the unscheduled works, the general foreman also can change the duration of the works, despite being saying differently from what is on the record. But if by some reason at the meeting they reach some agreement that is different from what it was logged, he can change that information here, saying that he's going to change that and present a justification for doing so, and save it to the system again. So all the information will be available and stored since the beginning, since the first record was created at that day and at the start time, till the end of the month where a justification is added and with all the edits in between. Next, you have the option to check the weather. I'm not going to open that because it's self-explanatory. And finally, you have the devices. And in here you will find all the devices that are connected to the platform, who is using the device, for instance the serial number, the device ID, the associated mobile number, for instance the PIN, an email. You can also have an email associated with the device, and the last login, who made the last login on the application using that device, and where. You can also activate it or deactivate the device accordingly to what is going on. Let's say, for instance, a device was stolen or is missing. You can use this form to disable the device until the device is found, or hand it over again to the person in charge of the device. Next, we have the general contractors. The site file for the general contractors is something like this. On this file, before the works begin at a construction site, you need to add an entry that of the construction site itself. For instance, a name of the construction site, where it is located, some reference initials, contract reference, the expected duration start to end, the GPS coordinates of the site. This is mandatory as the authentication system is location aware, and without it the Android application on the tab does not work correctly. You also have the option to add the distance, to the travel distance to the site, and the authorization radius for the tablet and the application at the site that is authorized to work within. You can also add the project languages that is translated, so that foreigners can have the data automatically translated to their language. You also need to assign an enterprise, a general contractor's enterprise here. To do so, you need to have a company listed here at first. The name, the address, some basic info, for instance, email, VAT or phone. You also need to fill in the services based on an hourly rate. For instance, for unscheduled works, for the machinist, for the craneman, and they are divided by regular hours, weekends, and after hours. After doing this, automatically is added one site section. If the site has more than one site section, you can add site sections here. And after doing that, you can assign site managers to each site section as so. You also have the ability to add a photograph of the managers, of the engineers, for instance, the name, email. On these fields, you can also code an access smart card to hand over to the site manager using these fields here, the access code and the authorization code. When you have the application, when you have on this application smart card reader and writer connected, an option will be displayed here to read the data and save the data into the smart card. So the smart card to validate to enable the smart card to work with the platform applications on both the tablet and on the Office desktop version for the site managers. After all this has been filled, you are ready to start working at the construction site, build teams, assign workers, and log attendance entries or production entries at the construction site. Next, we have the reports. The reports are what the word says, are reports, for instance, of worker file details, aggregated data by fields on the dossier file, reports of attendances at any construction site. It has the 3 different types of reporting of attendances. Reports of absences that are logged into the system. This is useful, for instance, to know what the number of workers and what days they are going to be absent, let's say, for instance, on the next month. You also have a report for the expenditure of clothes and protection equipment, a small report for expected closing days at any construction site, and one for a report for delivery of construction and building materials at the construction site. These are all reports. It's table-based reports similar to Excel that you can export to Excel and or print it accordingly. Let's see, for instance, the attendance. You can select, for instance, a monthly report. You need to select an enterprise category. You can see the report by category or all the categories. Let's reference to the month of September. Click the magnifying glass, hit OK, and this is one example of the reports where you can see the total days of work for this worker, the company totals overall, and also if it's not a full day, it will display here in terms of hours worked for the sum of the partial days that were not worked in full. So this is what the production version currently stands in terms of functionality. The next version will include a management package for planning and assignment of tasks to individual workers, and will enable your company to manage in real time the work being done by any individual worker on the following day. The main objective of this package will be to enable rapid comprehension of the work tasks at the simplest level. When a worker arrives at the construction site right after logging in his attendance and begin to work, he will have access to his daily planner, enabling him to know exactly where he needs to go within the construction site and what type of tasks that he needs to be completed during the workday. The worker will also have access to video tutorials on how to use tools or how to assemble or disassemble support materials and equipment according to safety standards and safety practices. As the day passes, a worker can log into the system at any time, any difficulty, problem, or non-conformity, and when the work is completed, simply mark it as done on the app and move to the next assigned task. This will allow the technical staff to assist more rapidly when things don't go accordingly to what was planned, propose solutions, and act faster with a live report at hand, pre-filled with worker comments, photos or videos explaining the situation, or simply have a real-time overview of how the progress of works is going at the construction site, any delays, identify more easily unforeseen situations, or even update the work tasks for the following day with the new tasks previously not identified on the execution project. Finally, just to add, the main objective of this project is to fully implement in full all technological gadgets in the construction site and commercially available today. For instance, implement usage of simple chip OEM smartwatch for stress monitoring or fall detection, all with assistance with artificial intelligence. If you're interested in moving your company to the Industry 4.0 standards, get in touch and go to the website to learn more or to contact us. Thank you very much. Until next time.